The Capital One Venture X has quickly become one of the most popular credit cards out there on the market, as Capital One's luxury travel card is a cheaper and, dare I say, better alternative to the American Express Platinum and Chase Sapphire Reserve. And if you use this card correctly, the Venture X can quite literally put money in your pocket every single year just for using some of the travel benefits on this card. So in this video, I'm going to do a deep dive on the Capital One Venture X, which I'll discuss all the relevant characteristics on this card, including the pros and cons, who the Venture X is for, and who the Venture X is not for, and then ultimately I'll come to a conclusion on whether the Capital One Venture X is still worth $395 in 2023. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. All right, so if we jump right into discussing some of the relevant characteristics on this credit card, the Capital One Venture X is Capital One's luxury travel card, and so it has an annual fee of $395. While that annual fee is technically higher than a lot of other credit cards out there, it is actually much lower than a lot of other luxury travel cards, especially when you consider that some of the main competitors to the Venture X are going to be the Chase Sapphire Reserve, which has an annual fee of $550, and the American Express Platinum, which has an annual fee of $695. As of recording this video, the welcome bonus on the Capital One Venture X is going to be to receive 75,000 Capital One miles when you're able to spend $4,000 or more in the first 3 months. And when you redeem those points for travel through the Capital One travel portal, you can get a value of $750 from those points, or even $1,500 in value from those points if you're able to transfer out those points to Capital One's travel partners. The point multipliers on the Capital One Venture X are also super solid, as you'll get 10x back on hotels and car rentals booked through the Capital One travel portal, 5x back on flights booked through the Capital One travel portal, and then 2x back on everything else. Those point multipliers are especially going to be really valuable if you're able to take those points and then redeem them for travel through the Capital One travel portal, because then you'll get at least 1 cent per point in redemption value, which would mean that you can basically treat the Capital One Venture X as your catch-all credit card to get 2% back on everything. But you do need to consider that you'll only get 0.5 cents per point if you redeem your Capital One miles for cash back, so the Venture X is not necessarily a viable option if you want the ability to get cash back from your catch-all credit card. Now, if we get into the most valuable aspect on the Capital One Venture X, which is the reason that this card can be considered a keeper card, let's get into the specific credits that can completely offset that $395 annual fee. So the most notable credit on the Capital One Venture X is going to be a $300 annual travel credit that is going to be given to you in the form of a statement credit for any purchases that you make on the Capital One travel portal. Basically, you can book travel like flights, hotels, and car rentals through the Capital One travel portal, and then once you hit $300 in spending, you'll automatically get a statement credit that is going to be applied to your credit card statement for the Venture X. Now, this is going to be a really flexible and easy to use credit because you can basically use this credit to book any sort of travel, but I do understand that there can be some downsides to booking travel through a travel portal, and I will get into all of that later in this video. Regardless though, if you're able to use this $300 travel credit, then you can right away decrease your effective fee on the Venture X down from $395 down to just $95. Then on top of that, you'll get 10,000 Capital One miles on your card member anniversary every single year. Those 10,000 bonus miles should be worth at least $100 if you're able to get at least 1 cent per point in redemption value by using the miles to book travel through the Capital One travel portal, using the miles to buy gift cards, or even using the miles to offset purchases that were made directly related to travel on your credit card statement in the last 90 days. And those 10,000 bonus miles can even be worth upwards of $200 in value if you're able to take those points and then transfer them out to Capital One's travel partners to get the highest possible redemption value. So even if we be conservative with those 10,000 bonus miles, and when you value that at $100, if you add that $100 in value with the $300 in value that you get from the travel credit, then you'd get a total of $400 in value from those two credits. As a reminder, the annual fee on the Capital One Venture X is only $395, so you could basically do nothing else with the Venture X except for use those two credits, and then you'd still get more value than the fee that you need to pay on this card every single year. But in addition to those specific credits, and on top of the additional benefits that I've already discussed, such as the strong welcome bonus and strong point multipliers, there are even more benefits that can be found on the Capital One Venture X. For example, you'll get access to Capital One travel lounges, which are honestly really nice, and they don't have too many locations yet, but they are rapidly expanding, such as in new locations in Denver, Colorado, and Washington, D.C. Then you'll get unlimited access to Priority Pass lounges for yourself and up to 2 guests, which includes over 1,300 lounges worldwide. And then finally, you'll get some additional perks such as price drop protection, cell phone protection, and no foreign transaction fees. So I understand that was a lot of information, but now I'm going to get into some of the positives and negatives on the Capital One Venture X so that you can understand whether the Venture X is going to be a good card for you to get. So the biggest positive on the Venture X, and probably the number one reason that people decide to get this card in the first place, is due to the ability to use the Venture X as a keeper card. As I mentioned, the Capital One Venture X is going to give you both a $300 annual travel credit and 10,000 bonus miles every single year, and that's with zero spending required. You just automatically get those for having the card. At the very minimum, those two benefits are going to give you $400 in value, which is more than the $395 annual fee that you pay on this card every year, and essentially means that the Venture X is going to give you $5 every year just to utilize those credits, even if you do nothing else with this card. And that's not even considering all the other benefits on the Venture X as well. The next positive on the Capital One Venture X is going to be the really strong welcome bonus. The welcome bonus on the Capital One Venture X is going to be to receive 75,000 bonus miles if you're able to spend $4,000 or more in the first 3 months. Those points should be worth at least $750 if you redeem those points for travel through the Capital One travel portal, and they can be worth upwards of $1,500 in value if you transfer out those points to Capital One's travel partners. So if you take into account the value that you can get from that welcome bonus, as well as the spend requirement of $4,000, then this would represent a return on spend anywhere between 18 and 36%, which is a really strong return on spend for a welcome bonus. The next benefit on the Capital One Venture X is that the Venture X provides a lower cost, yet still luxury travel credit card option. If you are someone who thinks the $550 fee on the Sapphire Reserve or the $695 fee on the AMEX Platinum is simply too much, then the Venture X could be a better alternative, with the Venture X still providing some luxury travel perks, and the Venture X providing a much more simple and straightforward use case to getting value. Finally, the last positive on the Capital One Venture X is that the Capital One Venture X has really good overall point multipliers. If you do spend money on hotels or car rentals, then you will get a really solid elevated multiplier for those categories. But arguably the best aspect about the point multipliers on the Venture X is that you'll get 2x back on everything, which, as I alluded to earlier in this video, does not necessarily make the Capital One Venture X a cashback credit card. But if you're able to take the points that you earn from the 2% back and then redeem them for travel through the Capital One travel portal, or even better, transfer them out to Capital One's travel partners, then this could be a good option as a catch-all credit card. But even though there are an overwhelming number of positives with the Capital One Venture X, there are some negatives on this card that you do need to consider. First, for the elevated multipliers and the $300 annual travel credit, you do need to use the Capital One travel portal to be able to utilize those benefits, and there are some disadvantages to booking travel through a travel portal. For example, sometimes prices can be inflated when booking travel through a travel portal as opposed to booking travel elsewhere. And then also it can be more difficult to communicate with a specific airline or specific hotel if changes need to be made or if cancellations occur. But to combat this, Capital One does utilize the travel booking platform Hopper to ensure price guarantees and travel protections. Then the next con with the Capital One Venture X is that there are simply way less Capital One lounges in comparison to the lounge access that you would get with the American Express Platinum. The next negative with the Capital One Venture X is that redeeming your Capital One miles for cash back would only get you 0.5 cents per point. The 0.5 cents per point is going to be much lower than Chase, where you'll get 1 cent per point for cash back, or even with American Express, where you'll get 0.6 cents per point for cash back. So you'll just need to be aware of this going into getting the Capital One Venture X, that this card is not necessarily going to be suitable for cash back, but it's going to be more of an option as a travel credit card. Finally, the last negative with the Capital One Venture X is that Capital One's travel partners are simply not as good as the travel partners with Chase or American Express. Okay, so those are all the positives and negatives on the Capital One Venture X, but you probably want to know whether the Capital One Venture X is going to be a good card for you to get. So let's get into who the Capital One Venture X would be a great fit for. First, if you don't have any strong loyalty to a specific travel brand, then the Capital One Venture X would be a great card for you to get, because not having this is going to allow you to maximize the $300 annual travel credit, which is going to allow you to decrease your effective fee by $300. Next, if let's say that all the many credits on the AMEX Platinum are just too confusing to use, and you want a simpler way to use credits to offset your fee, then the Capital One Venture X could also be a great option for you, because you'll simply have that $300 annual travel credit and then the 10,000 bonus miles that you get on your card member anniversary every single year. And those are the only two credits that you need to utilize to be able to completely offset your annual fee. Finally, if you typically rent cars when you go on vacation, then the Capital One Venture X is the perfect credit card for car rentals, because you'll get 10x back on car rentals booked through the Capital One travel portal, and you'll get Hertz President Circle status. However, despite the Capital One Venture X being a great fit for the vast majority of people, there are some instances and situations to where the Capital One Venture X just might not be the best fit. First, if you are very loyal to a specific hotel or airline and you refuse to use a different brand, then the Capital One Venture X might not be the best fit for you, because you do need to be flexible to get the most value from that $300 annual travel credit. And when you book travel through the Capital One travel portal, you typically do not retain your higher statuses at hotels or airlines. Next, if you want a lot of luxury travel perks, such as extensive lounge access and higher statuses at hotels, then the Capital One Venture X might not be the best fit for you, and the AMEX Platinum actually might be the best fit. But as it stands right now, the Capital One Venture X is one of the best and easiest to use credit cards out there, especially for a luxury travel card, and so it is absolutely worth the $395 fee that you pay on this card every year. However, there has been some speculation that there could be some changes coming to the Venture X due to how valuable and overpowered this card is. So that's just something that you definitely need to keep your eye on. But the Capital One Venture X is just one of 8 cards that made my list for the top 8 best credit cards in 2023. So if you want to see the other 7 cards, then check out this video next. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Peace.